I took 3 months off of OUMERE to hunt the international conmen behind an elite Polo Ponzi scheme. Part 1. Seduced by the Flames. In January of 2024, I was dating a man who I would characterize as attractive, mildly successful, deeply insecure, and profoundly immature. I called him Peter Pan because of his refusal to grow up despite being 52 years old. Peter Pan and I met in September of 2023 in Palm Beach when I was walking my dog Gigi, and he broke the ice by complimenting her great beauty. Peter Pan was a banker, and then became my banker. And then he became a visitor in my life for a few months. Peter Pan talked a lot. Peter Pan talked a lot about playing polo. He had an old picture of himself on a horse in a polo player's getup as his phone wallpaper. To me, he was a chameleon who changed to fit in with his environment. One day he was the banker. The next he was the drummer. Then he was the polo player. He slipped in and out of roles, taking off one costume and putting another one on. He wasn't grounded in any identity. It seemed he cared more about the look of a life than living it. Despite that, I said sure, because I thought it might be hot to see him on a horse. We arrived at a sprawling, beautiful polo facility in Wellington, Florida, called the Santa Clara Polo Club. The club Peter Pan found was renting a field there, a new club, called Polo United. Standing in the polo fields of the Santa Clara Polo Club, we were approached first by a short, stocky, balding, middle-aged man who introduced himself as Ciro Desenzani, one of 2 owners of Polo United, and claimed he was a professional Argentinian polo player and coach. I was immediately disturbed, not because Ciro didn't look like he could play polo with that George Costanza physique, but because he looked like a short version of my dad, although Ciro had a much smaller nose. Then reaching his hand to mine was the other owner of Polo United, Michel Dorignac. Michel had gray hair, piercing eyes, and the yellowest teeth I had ever seen. Michel also introduced himself as an Argentinian polo player, and his family name, Dorignac, famous in the polo world, along with his polo playing history, gave credibility to this new venture. Michel's resume was why Peter Pan chose them. He said he never heard of Ciro. I stood on the sidelines, and what I saw, riding fast on a horse, swinging a mallet, running down an open field, made me want to be out there. I had limited riding experience, but a $9,000 custom French saddle that I had been dying to dust off. I broke up with Peter Pan a week or 2 later for reasons that I will mention at the end, and sent Ciro a text message asking for a lesson, no longer collecting dust. Day 1 of 191 days. I arrived for my lesson late in the afternoon in February. Ciro and Michel were sitting under a blue Polo United tent on the side field at Santa Clara. Waiting for me was a little chestnut mare with a white blaze named Maggie. She was mine for the lesson. When I got on, I didn't want her to move. Not a trot, not even a walk. Just stand still. There's some disease festering in me that causes my brain to always go to the top shelf with any concern. I was sure that any sudden move from her would be the last of mine, but it wasn't. The lesson was conducted by Michel. We walked, and I swung at the ball a few times. After the lesson, Ciro and Michel sat me down under the tent, and the mood shifted from lighthearted to serious. Ciro did most of the talking. He explained that if I wanted to continue with their club, I needed to purchase their clinic package, 10 lessons for $5,000. $500 per lesson seemed on the high side of normal, and I was caught off guard by this fee increase since my first lesson was $300. But I would soon get accustomed to and overlook things that seemed to be outer fringes of normal with Polo United. I asked if I could pay as I went, since I was new to polo and still unsure about them. But Ciro insisted that they required a commitment if I wanted to be part of their club. Trust was a big issue for Ciro, as this demand foreshadowed. So, I showed my commitment and sent the money, though it went straight into Ciro's personal bank account. Snakes in the grass. I averaged 1 to 2 lessons per week, and I noticed my comfort level on the horses improve with each session. Michel's comfort level also improved with me. It began with him squeezing my legs suggestively, claiming it was to show me how to grip the saddle, but soon escalated to touching areas that didn't require such cues, eventually leading to something more serious. One evening after a lesson, Ciro and Michelle sat me down again, and once more, the mood shifted. This time, Ciro told me I should buy a polo horse. I knew the horse sales pitch was coming. Peter Pan had warned me. "What about Maggie?" I asked. Even though I hadn't ridden her since that first lesson, she was still on my mind. Ciro spoke for a while about her virtues. Michelle stayed quiet the whole time, sipping his mate, a kind of Argentinian tea, as he always did. When I asked how much, Ciro responded, $50,000. Michelle finally spoke, almost guiltily. He looked down at his drink and said, "That's a good price." Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I already owned 3 racehorses, and I wasn't about to spend more money on another horse. I said no. Saying no to Ciro never seemed to stick. A few days later he texted me again, opening with flattery about how happy he was to have me on the Polo United team, and how we could finally connect OUMERE, my cosmetics company, to the polo world through him, a favor I neither asked for or needed. He shifted quickly to pitching another horse, a mare named Tully. He attempted to boast about her origin by claiming she was purchased from a man named Memo Gracida, a name that meant nothing to me because I didn't know who he was. Ciro claimed Tully was even better than Maggie and would fast-track my polo progress. The price? $50,000.